the title of my talk, I think I'm just going to stick with what I know, which is what I've done at Cognism. So I'm going to talk about how we've gone from Scattergun to predictable in 6 months, and that is kind of the state that marketing was when I joined and where we are now. So yeah, I think this image kind of represents what I came into. There's a few of the marketing team here, which I hope they'll kind of attest to that. But people were kind of terrified of marketing at Cognism when I joined. We had a few really bad experiences. I think some Pardot automation had been sent off to prospects who shouldn't have been contacted, and so it was all just shut down. All paid was shut off because we found out we didn't actually have any tracking in place. UTM tracking was something no one had ever heard of before. So we were in kind of a bad state. You can see like April 2019, MRR contributed by marketing is kind of small. And it's up and down, and there's not a huge amount of predictability, and we're definitely not growing in the way we want to. So when I joined in May, I guess I had 4 steps that I put in place to get us to a predictability stage. And then in January of this year, you can see like we just brought in 40K of marketing attributed MRR in a month. And that's where we are now. And we are targeted on 50% of the revenue number for the whole business every month from marketing. So that's where we've got to in 6 months. So I'm going to talk to you through the 4 steps to get there. So step 1, I know we already spoke about testing, but it is actually really important in marketing. So track, test, optimize. I think the biggest thing I found when I joined Cognism, and actually even in my interview process with Nazma, was that she was being told by marketers that you can't really track marketing. It's kind of a feeling. And obviously, a lot of us will know that's not true, and you definitely can, and you should be tracking everything. So my first job was just like very simple, UTM tracking in place, and I worked out what's our hierarchy going to be, how are we going to put this into Salesforce, and how are we going to implement it into Pardot, and how are we going to share it with the sales team so that it's in place across all marketing activities. And then feeding into this is before you kind of put that in place, you need to think about the results that you want to drive. So I kind of targeted a few main things that were very important to the business and important to my targets as well. So I wanted a blended cost per acquisition of under 1,500, that would be good, but a blended cost per acquisition of under 1,000 would be much better. We're now at 800, so that's great. We wanted a cost per lead of under $25, a conversion rate of SQO, which is a sales qualified lead, we call them sales qualified opportunities to close one, on direct inbounds of 30%, and a conversion rate of content download to SQO of 10%. And then with those metrics in place, I was able to define the hierarchy that I wanted to put in place. And then I got on to testing. So I think we can all talk about testing and we can implement it across all the different channels that we might use, but we need to put in place like methods of tracking that. We need to make sure that we're testing in a way that's meaningful and that we can really show results and value for our work. So I use Trello for this, and the team uses this ongoing on a weekly basis, and we're creating new tests every day. And the way that we do this is we have a hypothesis testing method. So I've just put on the slide 2 examples of tests that we've run and what we were aiming to achieve, and then sort of comments from me, comments from the marketer of where we got to, and that's where we would end up putting it either success, fail, pause, live. And you can literally go into our paid ads Trello, completely visible for the whole company, and you can see what's live, what's worked, what's not worked, where we spent our money. And I think that's just a really good way of stepping into testing and iterating. And actually the output of all of this was that I sent a couple of the marketers and the team to a LinkedIn workshop, and we didn't know, but they had up in their deck one of our ads, and they were showcasing this on their roadshow as sort of best in class. And that was amazing for us because we preach about the testing, we do the testing, but and we knew we were getting amazing results. We get cost per leads of under $10 for this ad. And I guess it just shows that if you take that approach, systematical testing, you will get the results. So why this ad worked? Well, it addresses the audience in the headline. It's a controversial statement. I mean, the comments on this, when you read them, it's just comedy gold, actually. So go and have a look. And it also, so that brings you social proof, which LinkedIn loves and the algorithm just goes wild for. It's short copy, under 150 characters. Make sure you don't have to read more on your ads. So yeah, I guess my top tip for step 1 is just never stop testing and always keep optimizing. So we've actually created a role specifically for this now because we know how important it is. And their whole purpose is just to continue to take part in all these tests and find those new channels and ads that work for us. My second step is you need to find your North Star. So for us at Cognism, we found that content is our North Star. We've got our content manager here, Joe, so definitely grab a word with him. But your North Star is something that's consistable, repeatable, and scalable. So I think Cognism's going into a stage of growth where we're all about being efficient. So obviously the paid ads is important. It's important for us to have those acquisition channels. But we want to build something that we can generate a network effect that's going to be scalable, and we can bring down all of our CPAs. So that was the target that I had at the beginning. The reason we get to have that under $800 now is because we've scaled content. So how can you double down on that? So we now have 2 MDARS introduced. So this is a new thing for Cognism. It's brought huge alignment between sales and marketing. And the MDRs are responsible for all marketing-generated requests, whether that be a direct inbound demo request, a content download, and they actually sit on the bank of desks with marketing, so we get a lot of direct feedback from them every day, and that's really important to our process. We've written 40,000 words of a big rock content piece soon to launch, so that'll be launching, we hope, next week, and that is Joe's amazing work. And I'm going to come on to how you do that, because it can seem really daunting when you're starting out in a startup or a scale-up. How do you possibly go about doing that or justify doing that when you only have one content writer? And the thing I'd say is just strategically plan out your content calendar and base it on an SEO strategy and have those closer feedback loops with sales. The other thing we did is we introduced a new channel, so we now do regular webinars, and that's worked really well for us. So MVP marketing. I don't know if this is my step 3. Some of you might have heard of it, some of you might not, but it's a product terminology. So it's basically about doing the minimal viable product. And I think when you're in a startup and a scale-up, this is really important, and it's kind of where I come back to from the content perspective. We've ended up with 40,000-word piece of content, which is going to be a published book and an ebook and actually 5 mini-books. But it didn't start out that way, and we wouldn't just go about creating it because we thought it was a good idea and on intuition. We needed to just justify that and justify the resource. So set the foundations, create manageable content pieces, blogs, infographics, mini guides, and deliver the value as you go. So litmus test the popularity of that content. You can set it out, as I have on the left. It was just a basic Excel sheet. This is kind of my idea. This was the SEO piece, so we wanted to go after B2B lead generation. That was the term. And we just did some early bird promotions of the gated content. We found there was demand for it. Our blog posts were being read. They were in the top 10, they were getting double the amount of views we'd ever had. So we knew that this was something that had legs, and so we continued to build on the content throughout the last half of the year. And it was all strategically planned. So every blog post Joe wrote was feeding into this bigger content piece. And so, yeah, here, I think this is a good chart to kind of show it. So these are snippets of some of the 5 books that we're now going to be releasing based on this. And for our term B2B lead generation, you can see the growth that we've managed to establish since August, where we started those blog posts, and that was all based on a strategic SEO piece. And yeah, now we have an 125-page ebook and 5 shorter guides, and we've set some targets because we have to set targets. So we want to get 1,000 downloads, 100 SQOs, 20,000 MRR, and we want to be on page 1 for Google for B2B lead generation in under 2 months. And that will be what success looks like for us. And finally, like my last step, I think this is the most important, is don't forget the low-hanging fruit and get creative. So the other day, I've been interviewing a lot for people to join our team, so we're also hiring. Any campaign execs out there, come talk to me. And actually, like, people coming up with campaigns, they're amazing, but they're sort of very grand ideas, and actually then and great, but we're probably not going to implement them, and we can't do it quickly, and we're all about growth, and we have to do things that we can like act on tomorrow almost. So I was like, thought, okay, well, let's just go back to the drawing board. Have we actually done everything we can do to maximize like the most amount of juice from our lemons? Don't know if I can say that, but and there were small things that I found that we could be doing to create a better lead journey, like simple things. So if you use LinkedIn lead gen forms, do you make sure that on the thank you page, you actually direct them back to your website so that you can then create remarketing audiences from those leads, and you're not losing that traffic. You have to manually upload back in if you want to create a remarketing audience, but you can have an always-on audience. It's a really small thing, but it makes a massive difference, and we've now got conversions on those campaigns running at double what they normally were. So just small things like that, and on your thank you pages from a piece of content, deliver them to the next piece of content that actually is really relevant to them. We have a sales academy running at the moment, and that's worked really well for us. And I find myself, when I go on HubSpot, that I'm ended up in this lead flow that I never even knew I started on. I just wanted to look at one piece of content, and then I'm like down this warren hole, and I don't know how I got there. But that's kind of the aim. And just if you think about that and the small things you can do to make a difference, I think, you'll be doing well. And finally, I just want to say to get creative. So something we did at Cognism was we were thinking, obviously, we want to put content first, and we do a lot of content, but how can we do it differently and in a way that's going to be really engaging and help us promote our big rock piece of content that's coming up? And we had a team session where we all got together, and this idea for Dude, Where's My Leads cartoon came up. And I pretty much think it's unique. I don't think there's anyone else doing it. So, and actually our video exec just taught herself how to do animation. And it's amazing. So, here you go.
Nazia, I'm worried. No leads, no customers, no revenue. I don't get it. I know we have a great product, but no one knows about us. What can we do?
I know what we need to do, Jim. We need to get some outbound sales started. We need an STR.
Sounds exciting. What kind of person have you got in mind?
Oh yeah, Jim, I know exactly the kind of person we need. They have to be eager to learn and coachable, strong work ethic, and motivated to develop a career in sales.
I like it, but we've never interviewed for this type of role before. How do we know what questions to ask? I guess we'd better Google it. Hey Nazia, look what I've found.
What is it, Jim?
It's this company called Cognism. Sounds a lot like us, doesn't it? They've got a brilliant blog with lots of resources for businesses like ours. And look at this, 10 questions to ask when hiring an SDR. That's just what we need.
Fantastic, Jim. Those are some great questions to ask an SDR candidate. I'll get onto the recruiters right away. Jack, Jim and I will make a decision very soon and we'll get back to you.
Sure, it was great meeting you guys.
Wow, what a brilliant candidate.
Definitely, we have to hire him. He's got all the skills we need, and we wouldn't have found that out without Cognism's questions.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to keep a close eye on Cognism from now on.